We are so insanely excited to have Grace Smith with us today. Grace, I told you from the very beginning that I've been following you for a while. In fact, I hired one of your gals to take me through a series of hypnosis. And so it was fantastic. But when my assistant and I were going through who we're going to bring in this quarter, what do we want to focus on? What's most valuable for our clientele, which is primarily business or entrepreneurial women, we thought we need to bring someone in who's an expert in hypnotherapy, because I talk a lot about our mindset, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and hypnosis kind of cuts through. It's kind of like um, that tool that just goes through everything so quickly. And like I said, I've been following you for a long time. So I said, well, there's no one better than Grace. If we can get Grace, it'll be amazing. So we did. So thank you for being here. But let me just say a little bit of a background on Grace, so you know why I adore her so much. She's the founder of Get Grace. She's written, how many books? 3 books now, Grace?
5 now, yeah.
5.
More
Okay.
coming out. Yeah, these are the ones that are already out.
So she has a series of books, and she works with with celebrities and authors and CEOs, high level CEOs. And what I like about you, Grace, what really kind of stood out for me is that when I was looking for someone who's an expert at hypnosis, you were the one who came up for business. And so that's why I've been following you. So instead of me talking, let's get into you. So tell us more about you and your story, how you got here.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for saying such kind, sweet things. Yeah, I was so excited to come today because I rarely get to talk about my entrepreneurial journey. And yet, if I'm going to self-identify as anything, I identify as an entrepreneur. I happen to be really good at hypnotherapy, but the only reason I love it is because it's so ridiculously effective. And as entrepreneurs, we are solving the world's problems, right? By either creating something new or iterating something that currently exists and making it better. I think being an entrepreneur is to be honest, this might sound lofty, but I think it's like a holy pursuit, right? We're creating things out of thin air that didn't previously exist. And I'm not a religious person. A lot of my clients are, and that's great. I'm a spiritual person, but I mean, when I say it's a holy pursuit, I mean, it's of like the highest value, and anything that we can do to get out of our own way and solve our own problems so that we can be the leader that the world needs us to be, I am all for. And so I never in a million years thought I would be a hypnotherapist. But it turned out not only was I really good at this very seemingly random thing 10 years ago, it was also an incredible business opportunity. So let me start from the beginning. It was one of my first jobs out of college. I was running the New York City office of a Silicon Valley startup. So I was all alone. I was very young. I was 24. And this company continued to raise lots of money. And so they kept doing these funding rounds, and then they would overhire, and then all the money would run out, and then everybody's jobs would be on the chopping block a couple months later. I made it through like 7 rounds of layoffs. And now this was just on the heels of the 2008, 2009 crash. And we're all very much in the mindset that if you lose your job, you're not getting another one, right? So it was a very scary time. And I had huge quotas to hit. It was a big, big job. I had 0 healthy coping mechanisms. And so being in my early 20s, living in the Lower East Side in New York, my coping mechanisms were partying. And that's what I did to relieve stress. And I'm very, very lucky. It got wildly out of control very fast, which set me on this path. And so I decided one day I wanted to quit chain smoking cigarettes. I'd already stopped the partying, which was a huge part of my identity, by the way, at the time. I mean, I worked really hard and I partied harder. And that's where all my friends were. There were 800 bars in a 10 block square radius from my apartment. And I knew all the bartenders. So getting rid of that huge part of my personality, a huge part of my life, a huge part of my story was so hard. And yet here I was 6 months later and I couldn't stop smoking. And I didn't identify as a smoker. I didn't think it was cool. I thought I hated the smell. I hated the cost. I hated everything about it. And yet I couldn't stop. And what I realized very quickly, I didn't exactly have the language for it yet, but I noticed every time I told myself I was going to stop and I didn't, I was making that about more things, right? I couldn't count on myself. If I made a promise to myself, I'm not going to keep it. Like this insecurity around my word is my bond started spreading because I kept saying I was going to quit smoking and didn't. So I didn't fully understand what was going on. I didn't know it was the subconscious, but I could sense like this is becoming a bigger problem than just smoking. So I became willing now to try just about anything. And somebody said to me, you know, my mom quit smoking with hypnosis. And I went in very begrudgingly, arms crossed over my chest, not thinking it was going to work, thinking it was going to be some either weird stage show person trying to get me cluck like a chicken, or I was just going to lose my whatever I paid at the time, let's say $150, or it was going to be like mind control weird. Like I really wasn't into it, but I went in figuring, okay, if I lose $150 in an hour of my time, fine. So to my, honestly, like my horror, my shock and awe, it was one of the best experiences I ever had in my life. And I say to my horror because immediately this part of my brain that wants to make the world a better place goes, wait a second. I thought this was going to be creepy or ineffective or a joke, but actually it was fascinating, relaxing, empowering, and most importantly, I never smoked again. And I was chain smoking a pack a day at the time. So this thing I didn't think would work was the only thing that did. And I had studied human rights as that was going to be my track at Columbia for my master's. And so immediately this like human rights track starts running in my brain of why does anybody have emphysema? Why does anybody have lung cancer? Why are people smoking cigarettes who don't want to smoke cigarettes when the one thing that works is the only thing no one will take seriously as an option, this hypnosis thing? Like, what is going on here? So when I get excited about something, you might be able to tell, I go all in really fast. So I said, all right, let me just pump the brakes and make sure this wasn't a fluke. And I had debilitating fear of speaking in public my whole life. From, you know, the littlest kid who has to get up and share about their toy, all the way through college. I went through an excruciating process just to opt out of the required public speaking course they make you take. And when I did this, I had to give a talk in front of a few department chairs to opt out of the course. And they were like, this is one of the best speeches we've ever heard. Why are you doing this? And I was like, it's not that I can't do a good job. It's that if I had to sit in class and wait for my turn to give a fake toast to at a fake wedding, I'd die. I'd actually die. I wouldn't sleep. I would throw up. I would have a panic attack. Like it would kill me to be in that class. So I knew I could do it once I got there, but it was excruciatingly painful. So I used hypnosis to overcome fear of public speaking. That took 10 sessions, but by the end of those 10 sessions, I was the lead singer in an all-girl rock band in Brooklyn.
Oh my
So,
wow.
I'm not saying we were any good, but we were having fun. And I never would have had that experience had I not done this. And more importantly, now I speak for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars as part of my career. And I never would have gotten this message about hypnotherapy where it is today had I not done that. So then I start going, okay, how is it that the same tool helped me quit smoking and overcome fear of public speaking? Those seem like completely unrelated problems and challenges, and yet the same tool worked to help me overcome them. So what is the subconscious? Why does this work? How does this work? And I got a training just because I wanted to understand the subconscious more. I figured like I have a superpower now and nobody else has it, and I need to see what else I can use it for. And I had never been, what I came to find out in that training was I had never been such a natural at anything in my life as I was at this random thing. In my first practice session, I helped a woman quit binge eating, and she'd been doing it for 4 decades. And She came in the next day, we ate lunch all together, and she started crying hysterically. And she said, Grace, this is the first meal I've ever had in my life where I didn't eat it like it was the last meal I'd ever had. I'm not obsessing about the food. I'm not thinking about the food. I am present here for this meal. And she's crying. And I'm just sitting there, this corporate account executive, like, what is going on? I've never made this tangible of a positive difference in anyone's life ever. And it happened on my first practice session. So the universe was like not subtly trying to tell me, prepare yourself, lady. You're not going to have the corporate track you thought you were going to have. But I was very resistant at first. I was not willing to give up my career. I thought maybe I could get the word out about this, but not make it who I was going to be. But then fast forward 3 months later, and this is a story I've told a lot, so, bear with me if anyone's heard it before. But there was a man who was a United Nations peacekeeping officer in Syria, and he had a stress-induced stroke. His convoy was crossing the city of Damascus, and he was stopped at an uncharted blockade, and there was a bazooka pointed straight at him when he looked out the window of his convoy. So he's staring down the barrel of literally a bazooka, and he had a stress-induced stroke, which left him paralyzed on the left-hand side of his body. So he survived this life and death situation, but he lost his identity. Talk about losing your identity. This guy truly, genuinely looked like Rambo. I mean, he was at the peak of his military career. His muscles were out to here, and now he couldn't move a muscle on the left-hand side of his body. So he'd been paralyzed for nearly 4 months when I met him. At that point, he was suicidal. He was completely depressed, as you can imagine. And I was asked if I could help alleviate his sadness, improve the depression. And my honest answer was, I have no idea. I'd been doing this part-time for 3 months. And I'd been helping people overcome their fear of flying and stop biting their nails, but I had never helped someone who was in this serious of a situation. But he was willing to try anything. And I said, at this point, what do we have to lose? So I go to the Rusk Institute where he was. There's fluorescent lights everywhere. There's world-renowned surgeons in their white coats. And there's me, this account executive, doing this thing part-time for 3 months. Like, I was so nervous. I get there, this man can barely look me in the eye. He's so distraught. We start the session. It's not going well. He's fidgeting around. I can tell he's not very deep. And then all of a sudden, this thought comes to me, just like a complete download. And it said, Grace, he's military, be militant. And I said, all right, Alex, I want you to imagine you're in a helicopter flying over a city at night. You can see where the electricity is working, and you can see where there's a blackout, where the electricity once was. Now, this is a topographical map of your brain. I want you to fly to the blackout where the electricity once was. And he nodded when he got there. I said, when I count down from 3 to 1 and snap my fingers, there's going to be an explosion where that blackout once was. 3, 2, 1. When I snapped, his head kind of flinched. And I said, now I want you to imagine the electricity from that explosion traveling down the left-hand side of your face, traveling down your neck, traveling through your left arm, traveling out your left hand, your left finger. And when I finished the word, he was moving his left finger. This man who moments before was paralyzed was voluntarily moving his left finger before my eyes. And his eyes shoot open and he goes, what do I do now? And I start bawling hysterically. And I said, just keep moving your finger. That's it. You win. The session's over. He starts crying. The nurses come in. They start crying. The doctors want to know what the heck's going on. And the very best part of that story was I ended up marrying Alex's son. So that is the way I met the man who would become my father-in-law, was by watching him break through his paralysis. So that is the day I put in my 2 weeks notice at my fancy ass, sorry to curse, but it still blows my mind. My fancy, Silicon Valley job to become a hypnotherapist, because I talk about a human rights issue. This man was paralyzed, and now he no longer was, because someone who'd been doing this for 3 months, helped him close his eyes, relaxed, and imagine electricity moving through his body. I mean, it just blew my mind. It still blows my mind. And so that was a day walking home down Fifth Avenue. I said, this is a human rights issue. People are suffering needlessly because they don't know how effortlessly they can access their subconscious mind and upgrade their operating system. And I have to make hypnosis mainstream now. That's my job now.
That's you were destined for that.
That was 10 years ago, and now we've done it. We're the world's leading provider of hypnotherapy products, services, and education.
Okay. Yes. See why I brought her on here? So, okay, Grace, there's so much with that. And I have heard that story, and I still have to tell you, I have chills all over.
Yeah.
Right. And that's an amazing story. And now let's tie it in with businesswomen, with entrepreneurial women. As an entrepreneurial woman, we're taking huge risks, right? And there's a biological thing that's going on there too. And I've worked with hundreds of women over the years, and I see a lot of the same things. I see things such as imposter syndrome that gets in their way, right? These limiting beliefs, these narrations that they tell in their story that are bullshit, right? That keep them from achieving these amazing things that they need to, that they want to achieve. And the other part of it that's so interesting is that it's not like they're doing it just for fun. Many of these women are doing it because they're single parents and they need the income. And this is the only way that they can really figure out to do it, where they don't have to pay a gazillion dollars for childcare. So it's just like you, this is the thing that I hold near and dear to me, because I know how important it is for these women. And that's why neuroscience and meditation and hypnotherapy is so, I understand what you're saying, because I've been studying it for so long. But why, despite doing the meditation and the visualization and knowing that they should change it, why aren't they? What's going on there that they can't break through?
Totally. So if it were just a matter of conscious awareness, almost none of us would have any problems. Meaning, if it were just a matter of conscious understanding that smoking's bad for you, if that were enough to quit smoking, everyone would. If it were enough to have conscious awareness that making more sales calls leads to more sales were enough, we'd keep going instead of allowing the fear of rejection to stop us. And so there's this Freudian depiction of what we're made up of. And if you think of it like an iceberg, the top 10% you see above the waterline, the tiny little tip of the iceberg, is the conscious mind. And that is goal setting. That's like, this is what I want, right? This is some memory, and this is willpower, a tiny little tip. The subconscious is the huge mass under the waterline that you cannot see, but it's the thing that sank the Titanic, right? It's huge. And it is all of our emotions. It's all of our beliefs about ourselves and our position in the world. It's all of our long-term and short-term memories. It's our biological functions. It's digestion. It's the whole kit and caboodle. It's all in the subconscious. So if you set a goal of, I'm going to make $1 million this year, and your subconscious goes, my parents think rich people are horrible humans, your subconscious is going to win every time. Every single time. Mm-hmm. It will win. It will self-sabotage. It will create fears that don't exist. It will create situations that will take you out. So all hypnosis does is it brings you into the theta brainwave state, which is the same state we're in deep meditation. It's not a blackout. Nobody can control your mind. You're just in a meditative state, but you are relaxed. And because you're relaxed, you can take in new information easily. When we're in the fight, flight, freeze, survival, stress mode, that is our least adaptive state, our least malleable state. We can take in no new information when we're stressed out. And everybody's stressed out all the time because the body goes into just wanting to do what is rote so that it's got the surplus energy required to fight or flee or do whatever it's got to do to survive. So only when you're relaxed and feeling safe do you have the surplus energy required to create new neurological pathways in your brain very, very quickly. So step one is you've got to feel safe, really safe. And that doesn't happen by closing your eyes and trying to meditate for 5 minutes and like I said, shift around, right? You've got to be in theta. You've got to be in a deep meditative state, and a hypnotherapist will guide anybody there, no matter how type A they are. I didn't get into this because I was some enlightened guru who's relaxed all the time. I was a type A perfectionist who wanted to be better fast. So if I can get to theta fast, anybody can get to theta fast. I've gotten better over the years of being more, relaxed, but it's been through a lot of practice. So you've got to be relaxed, really, truly, deeply relaxed. And then you've got to frame things in a way that will get the subconscious to understand its belief about keeping you safe, which was keeping you small, was actually hurting you. You've got to actually negotiate with your subconscious. And then when you can get your subconscious on the same page as your conscious goal, you will be unstoppable. But as long as they're at odds, the subconscious is going to win.
Okay. So you've talked about, you can go into, you quit smoking in one session. I don't know if that's normal. I'm kind of guessing it's not.
No.
Right. So, if someone has been trying to grow their business or trying to do something amazing, it doesn't have to be growing their business. It could be anything, right? Or overcoming a huge challenge such as public speaking. That's so common for so many of us. Let's say you are so terrified of public speaking that when you start doing it, maybe you even break out in hives. Yep. You're so scared. But okay, let's talk about me for a second, because this is just the idea, the example I can come up with. I wrote a book. I was invited to speak. I had 18 months to get prepared. I had never spoken on stage. And even though I was a communications major, I was terrified and I sucked, and I would get up there and I would forget everything I was supposed to say, regardless of how much I practiced. So I did do a lot of these exercises, but my question is, how many sessions does it take? And what's the key to really kind of breaking through that limiting belief or that story that you're telling yourself, so that you can get on stage and shine and share your genius when you're out there without freaking out?
Totally. Yeah. So I'll use public speaking as the first example, but then we can talk through a couple other examples. So the general rule of thumb, a study found 600 sessions of talk therapy, regular psychotherapy, resulted in an average of 38% improvement. So 600 sessions is about 10 years worth of sessions for 38% improvement. The same study found 6 sessions of hypnotherapy resulted in an average of 93% improvement. Now, that's not to take anything away from talk therapy, because it's, we as hypnotherapists, we don't diagnose disorders. We don't treat disorders. There's so many things that we don't do. And that's important that we don't do those things. But you can think about it. When you go to talk therapy, almost always you're in the stress state. You're talking about what your parents did to you. You're talking about what your ex did to you. You're talking about what your employees are doing to you. You're in the stress state talking about it. You're not taking in new information. You're just actually strengthening those neural pathways. And it can be cathartic to get it off your chest. But then if we keep doing that for 10 years, we're not necessarily shifting all those things all that much, right? And again, not to take away from it, it's just different. When we come into hypnotherapy, we're going to the source at the theta brainwave state, and we're imagining what you want instead of regurgitating all the things you don't want over and over and over and over again. So 6 sessions for an average of 93% improvement is the general rule of thumb. But if someone needs to lose 100 pounds, that could never even happen safely in 6 sessions, right? So that would be much, much more. Let's take a look at my example with quitting smoking versus public speaking. Quitting smoking took 1, public speaking took 10. So with quitting smoking, I saw 0 upside to smoking at that point in my life. The wellness revolution was just starting. It was no longer in the 90s with Kate Moss and, supermodels chain smoking and making it look sexy. It was starting to become like a shameful thing, right? So where people would have to hide outside of the corner of the building or whatever. So there was 0 upside left in my mind to smoking, and I quit in 1. To overcome fear of public speaking, I would have to speak in public, which I very much did not want to do. So that took a whole whopping 10 sessions, because there was actually some resistance to even getting the result, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take long at all. I really wanted it, but I just didn't want to have to do it, which caused the longer process. Another quick example I'll give is the first bunch of people I helped overcome fear of flying. It was 2 or 3 sessions like this. And then there was an article written about my work by the editor at Mind Body Green. She had a terrible fear of flying, and it took her 8 sessions. So I told her, just give me 6. And in my head, I was like, we'll be done in 2 or 3. When we got to 6 and she wasn't there, I was like, okay, look, you have to keep going. You're so close. And she was like, I don't want to waste any more of your time. And I was like, no, 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 you're so close. Please just promise me you won't stop until we get there. Even if it takes 20 sessions, I'll just give them to you for free. And it took 8. And imagine, I mean, I can't tell you how many thousands of people have come to our business because of that article. Imagine if she had given up. And so for herself, right, she'd still be afraid of flying, but all those people who wouldn't have been helped. So the rule of thumb is you have to really want the result. So on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being you want it more than anything in the world, 0 being you don't want it at all, 5 being you know it's good for you, but you don't really want it. It's more like your spouse wants it for you and you just want them to stop bugging you. You have to be at least a 7 for hypnotherapy to even work. And that's how you know it's not mind control. Because if it were mind control, you could be at a 0 and it would work. You have to really want it. So 7 or above. And then in your mind, say at least 6 sessions per topic. But if you're not there at 6, please, for God's sakes, keep going. You're so close. Even if it takes you 6 more, who cares? You're 6 weeks away from changing your life forever. It's not going to take 600 sessions. It's not going to take 10 years. So make sure you really want it and then keep going until you get the result you want. It's going to be more rapid than anything else that you try. So let's talk about public speaking in general, or any questions about that before I get into the public speaking in particular?
Anyone have any questions on what she's gone? Oh gosh, we can go on for days and days on this.
We could.
Yeah, and maybe like even imposter syndrome, because I hear that all the time. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what level a
No.
woman's at. You could be, the CEO of Pfizer. I hear it all the time.
100%. Yeah. And my clients are CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're women. And every new level, you up level and you go, oh, don't belong here. And then you get to the next one, oh, don't belong here. And so hypnotherapy is so wonderful at expediting our ability to say, yes, I absolutely do. So we'll get to that in 1 second. Let's start with public speaking. When you think about the evolution of human history, it has only been in the last few decades that human beings are allowed to get up on stage and say how they feel. Really, truly, even in the Western world, right? I mean, there are kings that can do that, queens that can do that, and politicians that can do that, and religious figureheads that can do that. Anybody else who got up on a stage and spoke their opinion would end up likely jailed, exiled, or killed.
Yeah.
And in parts of the world, that's still the case. And so it makes sense that people say the fear of public speaking is greater than the fear of death, because actually, to the subconscious, they're one and the same, except for now you've got to live with the excruciating after effects of whatever happened, right? So that's truly, truly, I promise you, how your subconscious thinks of it, that you're going to get exiled, killed, or thrown in jail. Even if you're just giving your quarterly report to a bunch of suits, it thinks that. It's unbelievable, but it's true. And so one of the most effective tactics that I've used to help women in particular break through this very quickly is to say to the subconscious, because the conscious mind can hear it, but again, it's just information. You've got to be in the subconscious for it to land, and say, there are sisters of yours in other parts of this world who, if they spoke their mind, would be stoned to death today. You have a responsibility to your sisters to use your voice, even if it's just to share the quarterly report with confidence and poise. You are a woman with a platform. You are a woman with power. When you speak, speak for those who are still silenced. And at the subconscious level, that's almost all anybody ever needs to hear, right? I mean, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. It's so true. And it takes all that fear of all the things that could happen to us and just right sizes it and goes, nope. So many people fought for this, for my ability to be able to get up and say whatever I'm saying, no matter how mundane it is, or it could be hugely prolific. Like, I get to be here with my shoulders back and my chin up and my voice steady for her. And yeah, that's typically all we need. And then other than that, we just mentally rehearse it going really, really well. So I call it creating a neural precedent. When you're in theta, your brain can't decipher between what's real and what's imagined. So if you visualize at the theta brainwave state, crushing it and doing such an awesome job with your speech, as far as your subconscious is concerned, you actually just crushed it. And so then if you go to your local, let's say, Rotary Club to practice, it's not high stakes. Everybody's eating lunch.
They're
I do
happy.
that all the time. I speak at Rotaries all the time. If you can get them to care or notice, you're an awesome public speaker, let me tell you. So you practice the speech in front of an audience, and then you come back into hypnosis and you tell yourself, I just spoke in front of an audience and I'm alive. I'm breathing. I'm safe. And I did great. And now I'm going to visualize doing even better. So then we just build strength upon strength upon strength. And you keep doing that. You know, if you're going to do a TED talk, my recommendation is start your hypnosis as far in advance as you can. Say the same speech to as many rotaries as you can. Don't tell the organizer you're doing it because they want it to be like no one's ever heard that before. And then you'll do an amazing job. So that's public speaking. Any questions about that?
Anyone have any questions on that? There's some other question, or there's another question in here, but I think we'll answer that towards the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, cool. So let's do, and if you're thinking of things as they come, you know, you can throw them in
put
there.
them in
But
chat. Yeah.
so imposter syndrome. There's so much to say about that. I like to just tune in and see what's the most important thing to share. So I actually will do this. As weird as it seems, this is how I'm going to be able to give you the best information. It might not be appropriate in all of your working settings, but in my world, this is what I do. So I close my eyes. Okay, what is the most important thing to say about imposter syndrome? Okay. So we as high achieving women want to be perfect constantly. Can everybody relate?
Yes.
We want to be as perfect at tablescaping on Thanksgiving with our Pinterest boards as we do at budgeting our finance and whatever, we want to be perfect at everything. And it is unrealistic. And it is highly unrealistic to be perfect at something you're brand new at. And so imposter syndrome comes from the expectation that we can show up as if we've been doing something for 10 years at the highest level on day one. And so what we have to do at the subconscious level is change the marker of success from perfection to progress. And as long as we are progressing, we are winning. And with that in mind, if you were to, let's say, I mean, we're entrepreneurs, so we're our own bosses, but let's say that you're in a corporate setting and you just get a brand new promotion and the imposter syndrome is overwhelming, or the imposter syndrome is so overwhelming that you don't even go for the job, even though you know in your heart you could do an amazing job at it. We have to recalibrate our internal sense of success from perfection to progress. And that will take some time. That's something that 6 weeks will get you a huge dent, but you're going to want to keep, we get our teeth cleaned every 6 months. Every time you reach a new level, have a tune-up session or two, just because you want to be able to recalibrate faster. If I am progressing, I am winning. If I am progressing, I am succeeding. If I am learning, you got to make mistakes to learn, right? So if I am learning, I am succeeding. I'm sure you've all heard how Sarah Blakely's dad used to ask her at the dinner table every night, how did you fail today? And he'd celebrate the failure. What that really means is learning, progress, right? And so six sessions as a base to recalibrate that, and then come in for regular tune-ups, and my clients do. But it is so freeing to release the shackles. Just the session I had directly before this call was working with a woman who her need to be perfect for her mother it was so crushing, and she's 54 and it's manifesting physically now. So the sooner we can let go of this, the better it is for our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, the better it is for our daughters and our sons and whoever else we're modeling this for. Perfection is not happening. We're still worthy and deserving of love, but progress can happen with every breath.
Yeah. Thank you. That's amazing. So, like I said, I've been watching you and listening to you for a long time now. And there's a tree analogy that you talk about. And I think this ties in well, right? We solve one problem, but then it comes up somewhere else. So, would you chat about that a little bit?
Oh, I love that you know this. That makes me so happy. So, yes, I kind of came up with this idea of how you heal a number of issues, but truly the core that's causing them all. So, if you think of a tree and you think of the limbs are the physical manifestation of our issues. So, let's say binge eating is a limb, or yelling at our kids when we're stressed out when that's the last thing we want to do is a limb, or insomnia is a limb. So the physical manifestations of our issues. Now, if you think of something like gastro bypass surgery is a really great example. There was obviously a food addiction. Then the stomach gets stapled to this size. You can no longer consume that quantity of food. And yet studies have found anywhere from 85 to 90% of folks with gastro bypass surgery who didn't do any inner healing work end up becoming sex addicts or alcoholics because the root issue was never addressed. They just cut off a limb, right? They shrank the stomach. And so if we're just hacking off limbs, but we're not getting to the reason why we had those limbs in the first place, another one can grow. And so it's valuable to use hypnosis for a limb, but eventually we got to get to the core to make sure it doesn't remanifest in a different way. Now, the trunk is stress. If our stress level goes down, we go on vacation for 2 months in Bali with no phones and no computers, enough time to let the mind unwind and get used to a slower pace. It's almost like those limbs become phantom limbs. Like, did I really ever have those problems? But then if we had to get back on a plane, come back to real life and immediately, deliver something, some amazing new product out into the world, and the stress level goes ways up, what happens? All the limbs come back online, right? All the problems come back. So decreasing stress is important and very, very helpful, but it doesn't get rid of the limbs. So what are the roots, the things beneath the surface, kind of akin to that same iceberg analogy, right? We can't see it, but it's the source of everything. And that is lack of self-love, lack of self-worth, and lack of self-confidence. And to be completely honest, lack of self-worth and lack of self-confidence can even be grouped into, it's all about lack of self-love, but for most folks, that's too big of a leap to just go straight into that. But if you start with self-confidence and self-worth, you can fold yourself into self-love. So that is what we're always working on, whether it's binge eating or fear of public speaking or honestly being paralyzed. It all comes down to lack of self-love, lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence. And in that one instance too, we found other examples where hypnotherapists have helped folks break through paralysis. I just like to share this too. And what that was a reigniting of mirror neurons around the part of the brain that had been damaged. So there was a physical component to that, but it was also the worthiness and the belief in the self-confidence that it was even possible.
Wow. And so through hypnosis, they were able to reignite that area
Yeah, so the
and see the
mirror
change.
neurons started to take on the part of the brain that had been damaged by the stroke. It's incredible. And I thought part of it was that Alex had only been paralyzed 3 months or close to 4 months, which was why it was possible, but actually a colleague of mine called me a few weeks ago and I walked her through what I did and she helped someone who had a stroke 5 years ago and they had some movement. So amazing things. We have zero understanding of what the mind body connection is truly capable of.
Yes, I mean, we could go on and on. We can talk about breast cancer and, I was
Yes.
just, yes, I mean, there's just so much. But what I want to talk about, because I think this is really important. We talked about, getting to the root cause and going through one session or 10 sessions or 20 sessions. But what are some ways that we can prepare for hypnosis before we go into it so that it can be more advantageous for us, so that we're more prepared for it?
Yeah, the first thing I would do, honestly, I'll just put it in the chat here, is I would download our app. There's a free version and a paid version. So, you can always just get the free to test it out. Because with the app, you're able to go into theta and see what it feels like. Normally the first session that you spend with a grace-based hypnotherapist or grace method hypnotherapist, rather, we had a branding update. um, is just realizing this is not what the movies make it look like, and this is not stage show silliness. And so you kind of spend a whole session just being like, what is this actually? How does it feel? But that's kind of an expensive session. You know, the sessions range between $150 and $200 with our team. So just do that on the app for free. Just get to feel what theta feels like. Also, like anything, the more you do it, the deeper it goes, the longer it lasts, the faster you can get there. So if you listen to the app a number of times, let's say between 5 and 10 times before your first hypnotherapy session, you'll just get into theta that much faster. You'll get that much more out of it. There's really nothing else you need to do to prepare, because your hypnotherapist is going to guide you to ask the right questions, right? Those of us who are used to traditional therapy, we think we're going to go to the session and talk for an hour about our problems. That's not what we do. Maybe we have your first session, you'll talk more because the hypnotherapist needs to get to know you. But after that, I mean, it's a 10 to 15 minute catch up, if that. And you're spending the rest of the time in hypnosis, and the hypnotherapist is guiding you. So there's not a whole lot of prep work. And I know for, we overachievers, we're used to that. But here I would just say, listen to the app 5 to 10 times. It can be on anything, but I definitely recommend to this group the entrepreneurial series. So it's awesome. It's so great. I love it. I listen to it all the time. It will unlock major creativity. This is what it looks like, the home screen. You just come down here. There's little headphones in the center. You click on that, and you can either type entrepreneur in the search bar, or just come down here and go to work. And then there's the entrepreneurial series under work.
Oh,
And I would
perfect.
do that. It's great. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you and I talked about doing a little mini hypnosis so everyone could see what it's like. I love it. So I'm already hearing, I love it. So, so you ladies ready for this? This is so cool to watch how Grace takes us through. And I'm getting yeses. And so also, so they can see how you operate and the power that it can have to help us get into theta. So
Yeah,
I'll let you
totally.
take over.
And let me just real quick answer Stacey's question before we dive in, because I think it'll help you have an even better experience, Stacey. So PTSD or deep grief or trauma is what if it's a block moving forward to what you want? It always is. It always is. Yeah, our subconscious's job is to keep us alive and to keep us safe. And it genuinely defaults to keeping us small. That's how it wants to keep us safe. And especially if we've been through something traumatic, it just puts up all these walls in order to keep us safe. And so what's so beautiful is to be able to go into the subconscious and say, hey, look, I know you're trying to keep me safe. I know you're trying to help me, but the way that you're doing it is actually hurting me. I prefer if you could keep me safe this way, and negotiating it with it. And so I wanted to mention that before we go in, because if you have an opportunity to speak that while we're in there today, even just that quick little sentence, thank you for trying to help me. I know you're trying to help me, but the way you're doing it's hurting me. Could you do this instead? We'll already get the gears turning to make things better. Okay. So let's start with everybody putting in the chat your starting stress level. 0 is the most relaxed you can possibly be. 10 is a full-blown panic attack, the most stressed you can be. So feel into your starting stress number and put it into the chat for me. Really good.
7, 5, 7s, 3s.
Yeah, the average that I see starting stress is between 7 and 8. That's where people live. It's corrosive to our spirit. So let's get you all into the safe zone, which is 4 and under. Carmen, you're already there, so we'll see if we can just knock you out.
She's going to be sleeping at the desk.
You're going to feel like you're on vacay. Yeah. All right, so go ahead and start by closing your eyes. Take a nice, deep, letting go breath. Already beginning to relax both mind and body. Relax all of the muscles in your face, especially your jaw. Relax all of the muscles in your body. Especially relax your torso, your stomach. So often, especially as women, we're sucking in constantly. And it might take rounds and rounds of relaxing your stomach until you finally get to the point where you're not sucking in at all. You want to connect deeply to your breath, to that life force, that air. No sucking in, no tightening, no cutting yourself off from that life force. Just keep relaxing and relaxing and relaxing until all the stomach tension's gone. And I wonder now just how much you're able to relax your left ankle. And I wonder now just how much you're able to relax your right wrist. And I wonder now just how much you're able to relax both of your shoulders. Begin to imagine now what it would be like if the most gorgeous staircase you've ever imagined appeared before you. The staircase could be sleek and simple or elaborate and ornate. Whatever you notice is perfect and correct. And in just a moment, I'll begin to count down. And with each and every single decreasing number that I say, you'll easily and effortlessly double your relaxation. Just imagine what it could be like if you were to walk down your perfect staircase, becoming more and more relaxed with every step. Beginning now. 5, taking your first step down now, doubling your relaxation. 4, and if your conscious mind is thinking thoughts, it can do whatever it wants. It can think away. We're not concerned with the conscious mind. We're concerned with your subconscious mind. And so those thoughts can continue to do whatever they please. 3, going even deeper now, feeling into the velvety darkness behind those eyelids. 2, relaxing even more now. And 1, imagine now that you have landed inside of a gorgeous beach. A beach that's absolutely perfect for you. It could have stones or sand. It could be foggy or sunny. Hear the sound of the waves now. Breathe in the salty sea air now. Hear the sound of the wind through the trees, if there are any. The sound of the waves. Notice the colors. And then repeat in your mind after me. I am safe. I am calm. I choose to be here. Take a nice deep letting go breath. We'll do that twice more, repeating in your mind after me. I am safe. I am calm. I choose to be here. Another nice deep letting go breath. I am safe. I am calm. I choose to be here. Now, when I count down from 3 to 1 and snap my fingers, you're going to imagine you, little you at about the age of 5 years old, appearing on the beach. In 3, going even deeper. 2, trusting what comes. And 1. Imagine 5-year-old you appearing on the beach before you. Notice how she's doing. She could be happy to see you. She could be scared. She could be mad. However she feels is perfect and correct. And just get down into her eye level and say, I'm so proud of you. I love you just the way you are. I believe in you. And notice any shift, any change in little you. And now notice your new number on the scale. Remember, 0 is the most relaxed you can possibly be. Tell little you love her, and then open your eyes. And put into the chat your starting number dash your new number on the scale.
Amazing. 40. Oh, that was you.
Yeah.
You're even more relaxed.
Mhm.
7 to 4.
Good.
7, 2, 3, 1.
We got everyone into the safe zone.
I
Great
love it.
job. So, was that everyone's first time doing hypnosis? Everyone who's listening in? Yeah, that's awesome. So, you can see, even though it was the first time, even though you didn't know exactly how it would feel, it's profound, right? And so, now that you know what it feels like, the next time you do this is even more profound and you get there even faster.
Yeah, that is very, very true. And it affects in so many different ways that you didn't realize. Right. So then when you do a meditation or a visualization, it's easier to get into the right zone
Yes.
to help you. So, Grace, now that we're coming to the end, which I'm so blue about, but I know that you are not inexpensive to work with.
No.
And for most of us, you're out of our price range, just to be honest. However, you do have some amazing people who have been trained
Yes.
in your methodology. And so
Yeah.
can you talk to us about if these ladies or anyone who's listening would like to get to go through your training or to hire one of your people, how does that happen?
Absolutely. So it costs $1 million to work with me, which is still so wild to say out loud. Essentially, what I did is I just stopped having wait lists, and every time I sold out, I would raise my rate. So a couple of years ago, it was 100,000 for the year, then it was 250 for the year, and now we're at $1 million to work with me for a year. It's mind boggling, and we're still bootstrapped. We don't have any outside investment in our company, and so we take the investment of my clients and we put a large percentage of it back into the business to scale. So it's been a really fun thing that we didn't know would happen. But I missed working with more people because obviously very, very few people can do that. So I did add other opportunities to work with me. You can do a 90-minute self-assessment for $5,000. You can have a VIP day with me for $25,000. And then there's another smaller package in between the two after that. So still huge investments, but for some people, those make sense. And I really like the $5,000 one because we can map out all of the things that your subconscious needs to work on to get where you want to be. And then you can take that and work with a member of my team. Now, if those things are not in the cards, totally understand. That's the case for most folks. And so we realized we needed to duplicate my efforts. And we have a hypnotherapy certification school. It's the most robust certification school out there. And we take the top graduates from our school and they join our team and provide hypnotherapy sessions globally. And you can do a recurring monthly program or you can get a package. So I recommend at the bare minimum, if your finances allow, go for 12 sessions, because if we're using that 6 sessions on average as per topic to get 93% improvement, then you're going to cover at least 2 areas, which is going to help you get towards the root. Typically we gotta go through at least 2 limbs to start getting to the root. So if your finances allow, go for 12 or more. Just I've been doing hypnosis for 10 years. Our subconscious can always do more. So do as much as your finances can support. And then if even that's a bit out of reach, totally go for the app. Again, free version, Paid version is $19.99 a month. There's hundreds of recordings in there. I just recorded another one this morning that'll be in on Monday to help you close out the year strong, to feel grateful for what's happened up till this point, have an amazing December, and to start planting seeds for 2023 now. So that's going to be really fun. New one that comes out. So tons of resources, free videos on YouTube. Yeah.
And they go to getgrace.com. I mean, there's different places, but getgrace.com, is that right?
Yeah, getgrace.com is the best way to
Okay.
find the app, sessions with my team, working with me, and even the certification school.
And I can't say enough about this because so many of us waste so much of our time and we get frustrated and then we do the self-doubt and we think that we aren't capable of things. And I've seen it for so many years. But this is the type of tool that is healthy for you and can help you change that recording, change that habit, and create ones that really serve you well. You guys hear me talk about this all the time, but I'm a huge proponent. So, start with maybe 1 or 2 sessions if you want to, just to see how you feel. And then you can always move on from there. But I can't tell you enough the power that having a strong hypnotherapist can do for your entire life. So, Grace, thank you so much. I hope you have a minute to stay with me for a minute because I wanted to talk to you just really quick about something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do have a client at 12, but
Okay.
we've got a minute. Thank
We
you,
got a
Liz.
minute. Yes.
So awesome meeting you. Really, really thank
Thank
you.
you.
And best of luck on your journeys. You can do whatever you set out to do. I believe in you.
Yes. Thank you for being here.
Got it.
So yeah, and we're hearing all kinds of things. Wow, amazing. So happy. This was amazing. Yeah. So yeah, it was incredible.
Yay.
I'm going to stop recording.